and stakeholders in various contemporary topics is really praiseworthy. I once again convey my special thanks to the management of Bhubaneswar chapter. I take privilege to deliver some key address notes on this program and an insight to the income tax return by our eminent speaker, Sri Dr. Abhishek ji. The main issue would be under this Income Tax Act 1961 and rules made thereunder. Every taxpayer is mandated to furnish the details of his or her income to the IT department by filing of his or her return of the income for the assessment year. Once the return of the income is filed by the taxpayer, the next step is the processing of such return of income by the income tax department through their CPU, Central Processing Unit. Normally, in each and every year, based on the parameters decided by the central board, the return of income of the assessee gets picked for an assessment. The various forms of assessments are like self-assessment, which is coming under section 140 of the IT Act. Similarly, section 143(1), which is the summary of the assessment without calling the assessee, and section 143(3) is the scrutiny of assessment, and 144 is the best judgment assessment, and section 144 is escaping of assessment, and similarly 153C is the search assessment. These are the key areas I hope our eminent speaker will address in detail to all the delegates. Our resource person, I also request all the participants over here to remain in a mute mode so that it will be easy for all to have a hassle-free program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It is our pleasure that CMA Biswarup Basu, sir, Honorable Vice President of the Institute, has joined with us. Sir, welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now I would like to request CMA H. Padmanabhan, sir, our chief guest, kindly address.
Thank you so much, Shaktidhar Singh, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening to each and every one of you. Respected our Honorable Vice President, the President-elect, I should tell, CMA Biswarup Dada, who is very much amidst us, and respected Chairman of Bhubaneswar chapter, Mukesh Bhai, and all the other chairman, management committee members of other chapters of Odisha State. It gives me immense pleasure to note that Bhubaneswar chapter, being the A category chapter, is taking the lead to take along with them the entire chapters of Odisha State. And the council under the leadership of CMA Balwinder Singh sir, Biswarup Dada, and the entire council, we are very glad that in fact Shaktidhar Singh sir will be very happy that Niranjan Mishra sir also was requesting me as the chairman Regional Council Chapter Coordination Committee to form the South Odisha chapter, that is the Balasore chapter of cost accountant. Hearty congratulations to Odisha State for having one more child, one more newborn baby to your fold, right? And I am also very happy that Niranjan Swain sir is very much here, another fantastic resource person who has always been with the council, who is taking care of our institute in its activities. Most importantly, the main resource person, that is Dr. Abhishek Bhai. Abhishek Bhai is a very, in fact, a darling to me, I should tell, very young boy, according to me, and he is the son of the king, that is Dr. Murali sir. So definitely he is also, like his father, is like a lion, I should tell. And in fact, for everybody's information, especially in this COVID situation, and he holding a very important position as the Secretary of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Southern India Regional Council, not only doing services for his fraternity, that is CA fraternity as a secretary of that institute, I am finding him whenever anybody calls, he finds a time. I request the admin to please unmute others. It will be very good if you can help.
Please unmute.
Either the participants should mute themselves. Otherwise, the admin can mute everyone. It will be better. So as I was telling, in fact, Dr. Abhishek Bhai is such a wonderful personality that he finds the time to see that he is able to accept the invitation of each and everyone whoever approaches him and fine-tunes or sharpen that particular thing so that he is available as a resource person. It is blessing in disguise. And I also welcome our Avatar Parmar sir from Canada. You know what will be the time there, but still he has found the time enough to attend that too very important event. That too the resource person in the form of Dr. Abhishek Bhai. And I feel very happy, and I pray Almighty that Abhishek Bhai be showered with a lot of blessings to get more and more higher positions in the days to come. And he is not reluctant to be the resource person to whomsoever approaches him. That is the beauty. Whether it is a college, whether it is a school, whether it is an educational institution, or hospital, or hotel management, or any management association. I am watching. I think, in fact, he is the one person who has conducted the maximum as a resource person attended on varied topics, not only this particular topic where we are talking about insight to income tax returns. Apart from that, many of the topics also we are watching him, we are seeing in the social media, we are seeing in the YouTube, and on many occasions I had the chance to attend through YouTube also some of his deliberations. And I am very proud to tell, because some of the members were feeling that why a chartered accountant is invited by the CMA Institute. It is not, I am making it very clear. If it is going to be live and it is going to be uploaded, I am making it very clear. Any person who comes in the form of a guru, teacher, as a resource person, we are not worried about the qualification, whether anyone is LKG or UKG. This social media, WhatsApp University, people are spending more time on writing all these things. It is not like that. A resource person accepting our request, coming here, sharing his knowledge, we should in fact feel proud and thank. And most importantly, some people are telling that why don't you put a CMA before his name? That is not the organizing is not that easy. It is easy to tell everything sitting in the gallery, but actually coming into the field to play, only the organizers know. That way I appreciate Bhubaneswar chapter of cost accountant and the entire team of people of Odisha state that you have taken the right decision by bringing stalwarts. And as our Nanda sir, when he told the Sambalpur chapter chairman, that the Bhubaneswar chapter is taking the lead in sustainability is there. Each week one program is coming. That is more important. That is very, very important. It is not a question of we do one program or two program or just like that we forget or leave it. That way, hearty congratulations to Mukesh, another youngster, dynamic young chairman of Bhubaneswar chapter, and our Shaktidhar Singh sir. I think in his name itself it is there, Shaktiman. Giving all Shakti to everyone that they work unitedly as a team, together each achieve more. It's very much seen in the chapter. I'm really happy and I'm sincerely thankful to my Honorable President Balwinder Singh sir and Biswarup Dada, who in fact congratulated me telling that you are now today chief guest of. I actually don't want to be named as a chief guest because I am part of our institute as the chairman of the regional chapter coordination committee. But then I accepted for only one reason that today it is Dr. Abhishek Bhai who is the resource person. Otherwise, you all know, I attend all the event of Bhubaneswar chapter also otherwise. So let us not take much time of Dr. Abhishek Bhai, because Abhishek Bhai would like to, and in fact, I will tell you, he has, when we had no pandemic situation or other things, when he was not even an office bearer of Chartered Accountant Institute, as an ordinary member of a CA Institute or ordinary member of a CMA Institute, or for that a UK or so many designations which you are, qualifications which you are telling, even in those days, many occasions, live professional development program, he has come and he has shown his mettle as a person who has knowledge and who also have the capacity and capability of disseminating. And one more thing, Shaktidhar sir, I should tell you, his best half, Divya madam.
Yeah.
Okay. She has been our resource person in the Members in Industry program organized by Biswarup Dada. At an international level, she was a speaker. So days are not very far. Now, Abhishek Bhai, you should also come at that level. You should compete with your own best up and become an international speaker in our event. I thank Shaktidhar Singh sir and the chairman Professional Development Committee for choosing such a wonderful personality, lovely person, very handsome. And like I told, when he is the son of that lion, that is a king, Murli sir, definitely he is not going to be anything less than like his father. So wish you all the best and hearty congratulations to Bhubaneswar chapter once again and all the chapters of Odisha state. And I am really missing Naranjan Mishra Bhai, the honorable council member of Bhubaneswar chapter. In fact, I only instructed him that you should not attend the meeting today because he is not well. Though politely Shaktidhar Singh sir told due to official reason, nothing like that. I have advised him to take rest and we promised that we will come. And CMA Biswarup Dada, the Honorable Vice President, has taken an initiative that he is bringing maximum member of parliament and ministers through the webinars also along with Balvinder Singh sir. And in fact, on 9th, I request each and every one of you to please attend that program where member of parliament is coming. Why? The reason is, number one, you will listen to the member of parliament, right? Kumar Hembrand. Second thing, member of parliament also will feel when I come to the institute program, how many people are attending. That is very, very important. So please, this is my humble request. When the vice president is taking so much effort along with the president and the council team, it is our duty also, if we are otherwise free, kindly make it convenient to attend such a webinar program so that the persons who come from outside will also have some respect. When we go to this institute, this is their strength. And when we demand something or the other from them, they will also feel happy to oblige to whatever we want. So wishing all the best for Abhishek Bhai, my dearest darling, I should tell my own younger brother, very, very humble, simple person. That is the beauty. When people have more and more qualification, they also behave like a professional in a very humble manner. We have to learn from such youngsters also. So wishing the function all the very best. And once again, thanking Mukesh Bhai and Shaktidhar Singh sir for giving me an opportunity to be here and also giving me a chance to address all of you. And last but not least, I would like to specifically thank, because you are conducting it on a working day where I can come to my institute, Institute of Cost Accountants of India, Southern Regional Council, and without any network issues, I can attend. Because Sundays, at time, I was finding it difficult to attend in full, in toto. So thank you very much for considering that request also. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best. And as Shaktidhar Singh sir told, please stay indoors, stay blessed, stay safe, and take care of yourself nicely. At the same time, take care of your own beloved ones also nicely, so that we will have more and more occasion to cherish more golden moments of such a type of program of the institute. Thank you very much, Shaktidhar Singh sir.
Thank you, sir, for
All the very best, Abhishek Bhai. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your nice and encouraging words. Thank you for acceptance of our invitation. You are always the part of Bhubaneswar chapter. We hope the same sort of support and cooperation for all time to come. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request the most today's resource person, Dr. Abhishek Murliji, kindly address. Hello.
Thank you so much, Shaktidhar Singh sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for this opportunity to all the MC members of the Bhubaneswar branch, Shaktidhar Singh ji, Chairman Mukesh ji, and of course, beloved Central Council member, CA Pappan or Padmanabhan sir, however you want to call him. He gave such a lovely introduction for me. Thank you so much, sir. He is a very, very dynamic leader. I've had the opportunity, have interacted with him for many years now, and seen it up close and personal, all the great things that he is doing. So he, in his own inimitable style, he lavished a lot of praise on me. So thank you so much for that, sir. And of course, needless to say, we also have with us the Vice President of our institute, Viswarup Basu, sir. Thank you so much for joining today, sir, and blessing this occasion with your presence
Sir,
and Padmanabhan sir's presence.
Yes, sir. Please continue. I was requesting Shaktidhar Singh sir to mute his mic. He has muted. Okay.
Yes. So I thank all the members for joining me at this program today and to listen. It's a very, very important topic, and the timing is a very apt timing. I'm sure many of you, either for yourselves or for your company, or maybe your clients or your family members, you will all be getting ready to file the return of income. Normally by July end, it would have finished. You would have asked for extension, all that. Maximum, we would have got 31st of July. Now that time is also over, but still we have time to file return today. Thank you to COVID situation. And owing to that, many developments are there in the income tax return also. So therefore, few aspects that we all need to take care of. What are the key changes? The first thing that we need to address is what are the key changes when it comes to the income tax returns, and more importantly, how we need to plan around it. Is my screen visible?
Sir, very much visible, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So, as you all know, the topic today is, they say, insight in ITR, but critically my focus is going to be on the changes along with the insight. So to start with the changes, this year in the ITR returns, there have not been substantial changes. There have been changes, but not substantial. But interestingly, every change which has happened in the ITR is a very, very important change. And not only that, we should not restrict, we should not have a blinkered view. What are the changes? What is the ITR? Give me insight on the ITR. Insight on the income tax return means we must all take a little step back. Once we start filling that ITR form, we all get very deep into it. But let us all take a step back and understand the broader implications of what are certain changes which have happened pertaining to the income tax. Now, I'm sure all of you would have watched our Honorable Prime Minister's address a couple of weeks back called Honoring the Honest, which was telecast as a webcast. Our president of our CMA Institute was there. Various members from professional bodies like FICCI, CII, leading industrialists across India, everyone had attended this program. Every single income tax principal chief commissioner and authorities across India were watching that program. So this is not just for show. Really speaking, the changes which are going to happen in income tax are truly groundbreaking. They are truly earth-shattering and groundbreaking changes which are coming up front. And these changes, while many of us may think, anyway that is e-assessment, anyway that is appeals, I am only doing income tax return. No, sir. It is going to impact your income tax return. It's going to impact my income tax return, everyone that we know, our clients, our family members. So therefore, going forward, you will see how these changes are going to impact everybody now. We have to first start, before we start with the changes, let us first start with the key developments. If you've all been reading the newspapers, you must have seen certain agreements are now being entered into between the CBDT and other regulatory authorities. The first critical one was between the CBDT and the CBIC, which came out in July, or the GST authorities today and the indirect tax authorities today. Earlier, I still remember when I had just passed my CA and I was handling my initial cases of appeals. And in fact, many of my appeals were referred to by our CMA brethren. And when I was handling those appeals, I used to remember some clients, they used to say, sir, we are maintaining income tax books. I say, okay, can you show this in your GST records? Can you show this in your service tax records? They'll say, bring me the service tax accounts. I used to say, sir, what is service tax accounts? So they used to maintain separate set of accounts for indirect tax authorities, separate set of accounts for your direct tax authorities, because people were confident, companies themselves were confident, proprietors themselves were confident that these people will not speak to each other. I used to give one amount here, one amount there. They both will do their separate assessments. I'll handle it accordingly. Those days are gone. Today we are living in a digital era. So therefore, the moment you talk about information sharing, sharing of exchange of data, all of that becomes now not a matter of writing a letter, waiting for a response, etc. I have seen days where income tax authorities, they used to write to the indirect tax authorities, the VAT authorities. By the time they get a response, the time barring date for passing the assessment will be over. So therefore, if they get a response at all, now sharing of information is just one button. You have to feed the PAN number, feed the GST number. That's it. They'll have to share the data. If they say the GST is invalid, then straight away they'll initiate action against the SSC. So therefore, the impact of this is going to be substantial. And let me tell you, we might think, some of you may think that, oh, this is so silly. Who's going to give a different set of data like this? But my friends, let me tell you, it is a reality today. It is a reality today where the sharing of information like this and that is something many accountants, many professionals, they did not envisage, so they still continued certain unethical practices, but this is a great stop to all of that. So therefore, your income tax returns, naturally the impact is going to be there. Ensure all your data tally with each other. You should not have one data here, one data there. The next critical one, this came out literally days ago, where the CBDT entered into an agreement with the scheduled banks. Now, the scheduled commercial banks, there have been a lot of new developments where now, 194N is a new provision in the Income Tax Act, where there will be TDS on cash deposit, cash withdrawals, etc. in certain scenarios. So therefore, where a huge amount of cash is being withdrawn by persons who are not filed income tax returns, TDS will be deducted at a higher rate. Where TDS is being withdrawn where cash is being withdrawn beyond 1 crore, then TDS will be done at a certain rate. No, the charging of TDS here is not for the purpose of collecting tax. It is for the purpose of bringing into record that some person is doing such a transaction. So if you have clients or friends or family where they are withdrawing large amounts of cash, please be wary. No, not only is there going to be TDS, there is going to be sharing of information between banks. Now, this press release itself restricts itself to only TDS 194N for this moment. But can you tell me that this will not be extended? That the role of the agreement cannot be extended further? Exchanging of information, sharing details, who's depositing what cash, are they admitting it? So many people are filing income tax returns, not disclosing their bank accounts. So therefore, now if I type in the PAN number, I will know what and all bank accounts you have, what and all cash deposits you have done, bank statements I can withdraw. There is no matter of privacy when it comes to income tax authorities. Please remember, income tax authorities have the access to whatever records that they please. They can always ask for the details from you, or they can directly seek the details from the bank or the other authorities as may be concerned. Now, this, as you can see on your screen, is the details of the income tax returns. Now, many of you may feel this is very common knowledge, but there are some very, very, very important changes here. Now, when it comes to individuals, ITR 1, ITR 2, ITR 3, and in some cases ITR 4, where you're going for presumptive taxation. ITR 1 was the easiest to form. I'm sure if any of you here are salaried employees, then mostly you will be filing ITR 1 or ITR 2. You will not be filing any other form. And ITR 1 is the easiest form. It is the vanilla form, as we used to call it. But what is the major change here? The first one, please note the purpose of why you are going to file ITR. ITR 1 for individuals being a resident other than a not ordinarily resident. That means what? Only if you are a resident and ordinarily resident can you file ITR 1 at all. First point. Having total income up to rupees 50 lakhs. No change there. So your total income must be up to 50 lakhs. If it is more than 50 lakhs, you cannot file ITR 1. Having income from salaries, one house property and other sources. Note the critical change. One house property it says. Earlier, it used to say house property income. It did not say one house property. So therefore, now, let us take a scenario where I have two houses. I am staying in one house. It is a self-occupied house property. I am letting out the other house on rent. Maybe I am getting 3 lakhs rupees as rent from the other house. So now, which ITR should I follow? You will say ITR 2. But normally what people were doing, they used to say, Why I should file ITR2? ITR2 is very complex. I have to fill more details. I have to share more details. I have to give a lot of information. It's not very easy to file. It's a little bit more complex. So therefore, my income is totally within 50 lakhs. I don't have any capital gains. I don't have any business. I only have salary income. I have this house property income. That's all. So let me just file ITR1. Anyway, my numbers are correct. Why? Self-occupied house property means nil only, no? So therefore, whatever rented out house property is there, I'll admit that I am not evading tax. I'm not avoiding tax. I'm paying the right amount of tax. I'm giving the right amounts to tax. I'm filing the return correctly. However, please note, this is the critical change. It has to be only one house property. So in the example that I gave you, if that gentleman has two house properties, but he is still filing it in ITR1, then ladies and gentlemen, it is a defective act. It is a wrong return. And this is the very, very important point. This year, the income tax have made it very clear that they are going to be treating returns as invalid. They will treat, before in the example I gave you, I have two houses, one self-occupied, one let out. I am still filing ITR1. My numbers are correct. My tax is correct. My return, everything is correct. However, I have still filed the wrong return. Therefore, it will be treated as invalid. And till date, why is this a very, very important point? Because till date, even though department could have treated your return invalid, you might say, sir, so many years I have been filing, sir. Yes, it is said one house property last year also, but still I have two, I have filed only ITR1. Yes, maybe you have filed. But the income tax have been kind enough not to initiate action against you. They have processed various returns like this, where the numbers have been correct, but the details are actually wrong. It should have been filed in ITR2. It should have been filed in ITR3. But you're putting everything in ITR1 and you're filing it off. They have been kind enough not to take action. They have been kind enough to let it be. But ladies and gentlemen, let us be clear. This year, the income tax have made it very clear that if you file it in the wrong schema, you file it in the wrong form, then if you do not rectify it or do not cure the defect within 15 days, it will be treated as invalid. Note that point. It is a very, very important point. What is the other critical development when it comes to ITR? Now, I am a director of a company or I hold unlisted shares in a company. Then in that case, I cannot file ITR. Why is this an important point? I'll tell you why. Now there are additional disclosures when it comes to holding of a directorship or unlisted shares. I must disclose the name of the company, the type of the company, my DIN number, the SIN number of the company. All these details need to be given. Now, why is this important? I'll tell you why. Many of my clients that I've been working with, these are details I never used to collect before this new income tax forms came. Normally, I never used to collect, and I'll say 90% of professionals never used to collect these information from their clients. Why? Why didn't they collect? The logic is simple. It was not required, so I did not collect. Not only that, very often there are situations where the client himself is not aware. What do I mean by that? I might have started a business 15 years back. I started a company. That company, I ran it for 1 year with my friends. I was running. We were all the directors. We were all the shareholders. It was not doing well. I decided, okay, I don't want it. I'll go join employment. I just quit the company and I forgot about it. I've joined a salaried business. I've been working in one as an employee for almost 15 years now. Now there's this new change in the income tax law. You'll think there's no change, still ITR only for me. I'll file it as it is. But they might still be a director in that company. Even if they are not a director, they are definitely holding a share. Nowadays, how many companies are you actually winding up? Before ROC struck off a couple of years ago, how many of you were actually doing winding up of company? Setting up of a company you will do, incorporation you will do, doing all the filing of the forms you will do. But winding up, how many you have done? Liquidation, how many you have done? Very, very limited number of people used to actually wind up companies. So trust me when I tell you, many of your relatives, many of your clients, many of the people you are interacting with, they have done business at some time in their life. They have held unlisted shares at some time of their life and they are still holding it. They have not sold it. The company is not wound up. It's not been bought back. They are still holding, but nothing is happening with it, but they are holding. Please remember, the same principle that I told you before applies equally here also. That is, if you have it, you have to disclose. If you don't disclose and the income tax find out, it will be invalid. It's a very, very new change. If you don't disclose, it will be invalid. And getting details of who are the shareholders, how many companies you have invested in, all these details are very, very easily available today. They are very, very easily available today. You can take an example. You take a company, you put it on Google. You take an unlisted company, any company that you can think of, you type it out on Google. You will immediately get details of the company, who are the directors, what is the shareholding, what is the paid up capital, in simple Google search. You have not gone to MCA website also. You have not paid 50 rupees to purchase the annual returns. No. Everything is there on a free Google search, ladies and gentlemen. So therefore, if I search your assessee's name on Google and I find that he is a director of a company that you have not admitted, straight away it's the invalid return. Department has the powers. They very much have the powers to take penal action. They have very much powers to levy penalty and take even prosecution if required for disclosure which is not correct. They may not have done it before, but today we are in an era of e-assessment. It is no longer going to be assessed. Your client in Bhubaneswar will not be assessed by someone in Bhubaneswar. He'll be assessed by someone in Delhi, Chennai, Cochin, anywhere across the country you don't know. So therefore, that person has all the tools of the income tax at his disposal. So if he wants to levy penalty, he can levy. If he wants to initiate prosecution, he can direct prosecution. So therefore, please be careful. Get these details. Get these details. Many of you might be young CMAs who are watching. Many of you might be even people who are studying to become CMAs. So therefore, please remember, at that office where you are working or the new practice that you have started, please remember to collect this information. It may have been a very old client. For 20 years, you have been filing only business returns for him. For 20 years, you're filing only salary returns for him. Even then, it is your duty to ask him whether he is a director or whether he holds any unlisted shares in any company. Some people might help their friends also. My friend started a company, he wanted some 1 lakh funds, so I purchased the shares of the company. So therefore, at any form, you could hold unlisted shares. Please get the details and disclose it correctly. Now coming to ITR 2. Now there's no major change here. It still remains whatever required, but inside the form there are certain changes which I will take you through. ITR 3 is for anyone who has any business income, then you have to file ITR 3. ITR 4 is for presumptive purposes. ITR 5 in case partnership firms and any person who is not covered in the above, they will be covered in ITR 5. ITR 6 is for companies, and of course ITR 7 is for trusts, NPOs, and your 12A amendments, 12A registration trusts, etc. Now, the first critical change, this is common in almost all individual firms. There is a new provision called the 7th proviso to section 139(1). What does the 7th proviso say? Normally, for years together, what we have studied, who has to file the return of income? Any person whose income exceeds the maximum amount not chargeable to tax, that person is required to file the return of income. Or suppose he wants to claim a loss, suppose he wants to get a refund, then in all these cases, he has to file a return of income. Simple, we've all understood. However, this year, they have introduced a new proviso, a new condition of who has to file the return of income. Who are these people who have to file the return? See, look at the specific provisions. Have you deposited amount or aggregate of amounts exceeding rupees 1 crore or more in a current account during the previous year? Please note, this is not an income-based criteria. All of these are expense-based. All of these are different criteria, not based on your income. Even if your income is zero, but if you satisfy these criteria, you have to still file your return of income. Have you deposited an amount or aggregate of amounts exceeding rupees 1 crore or more in one or more current accounts during the previous year? Okay, we've understood. Now check out the next two provisions. These are very, very interesting. Have you incurred an expenditure of an amount or an aggregate of amount exceeding rupees 1 lakh on consumption of electricity during the previous year? Ladies and gentlemen, I have a question for you here. Have you incurred expenditure on an amount aggregate of amount exceeding rupees 1 lakh on consumption of electricity during the previous year? Now here, I'll give you a scenario. And this is a practical scenario. Many of my clients, this is what is happening. Where your assessee, the taxpayer, is based in Chennai or based in Bhubaneswar or based in India. She or he is a senior citizen. Her children are all living abroad. Son is living in the US. He's earning in dollars. He's making a lot of money. He tells his parents, he says, parents, don't worry, all your expenses, everything I will take care of. You relax there. They are saying, yes, beta, I want to be in my hometown here. I want to go to my temple. I want to be with my family and my friends. My expenses alone, you take care. I don't want to come to the US. So they are paying everything what needs to be paid. That person in the US, he is a non-resident, he is paying everything. Then what happens? Now, please tell me here, who has to file the return of income? That person in the US has no income in India. That assessee in India, who's the owner of that house, the electricity bill is being paid, that person also is retired, no income. So who has to file the return? Is the person who's paying the bills from the US, that son he has to pay, or the person who's consuming it in India, that person has to file the return? Who has to file the return in this case, in the 7th proviso? So therefore, there's ambiguity. You don't know the answer here. Who has to file? Really, there is ambiguity here. Does the person who's incurring the expenditure, does he have to file? Or who's consuming the electricity, they have to file the return? We still don't know the answer yet. But before I give you the answer to that, let us see the third point. And once we understand the third point, it will be clear. Have you incurred expenditure of an amount or an amount exceeding rupees 2 lakhs for travel to a foreign country for either yourself or any other person? Here it is very clear. If I am booking tickets for me and my wife and she is flying in business class, so 3 lakh rupees I have spent on her travel for the year. Now who has to file the return of income? My wife need not file. Look at the wordings here. Have you incurred an expenditure of an amount or an aggregate of amount of rupees 2 lakhs to a foreign country, either for yourself or for any other person? I am booking for my parents. I am booking for my wife. I am booking for my son. Then in all of these cases, I only have to file, not them. They don't have to file. Even if they have 100 rupees income, they don't have to file. Me, I have 0 income, but I am spending for them. I have to file my return. They need not file. So therefore, whoever is incurring the expenditure has to file in this case. Similarly, logic extends to the other electricity bill scenario also. Whoever is incurring the bill, so therefore that son who's sitting in the US, he has to file the return of income in India. So what does this mean? How does this impact the filing of the returns or for us this year? Many people who are non-residents are footing the electricity bill and other bills for their parents, for their senior citizen parents, for other family members. They will not be filing the return of income in India. Now they'll have to file the return of income in India. The other important development, now you may think anyway, this is after all they have to file nil return. Yes, you are correct. But many of them have fixed deposits in India where they are earning interest. The interest will be within 2,50,000 only. It will not be chargeable to tax. However, when they are citizens in US, this is specific to the US, their global income is taxable in the US. And many of them don't disclose the Indian interest income, etc. in the US return. They completely forget it because they don't file the returns in India. They'll think, okay, nobody is going to come to know. Even they themselves may not know in many cases. They don't file the return in India. So therefore, the US also not disclose, no problem. But now, when you're filing the return in India, we all know TDS details get reflected in your returns. So therefore, it comes into your return of income here. And now in your US returns, if you don't include it, the US authorities, all they have to do, sharing of information with India, get the details. They will tell them, why have you not disclosed your interest income that you've paid, you've earned in India over here? They will have to beg. And the US conditions of non-disclosure are very strict. Could involve even deportation back to the country. So ladies and gentlemen, this is why you have to take a 360-degree view when you're advising your clients, when you're advising your family members. You have to have a 360-degree view and you have to tell them all the implications. The seventh proviso, you might say, after all this small thing, you just have to file nil return. But look at the sort of ramifications it has. You have to file the return, whether it is this person or person paying in US person he has to file the return. Has he got TDS here? Yes. Has he admitted the income there? No. Please admit the income. If you don't, you will get into trouble there. Look at the sort of 360-degree view. So please take that 360-degree view. Now the next question. Now I have a client who's been filing the return year on year. He has a very thriving, successful business. He's earning a huge amount of salary. In this case, do I have to still collect these details? Seventh proviso is only applicable where your regular conditions for filing of return is not applicable. So if your assessee has income that exceeds the maximum amount not chargeable to tax, then straight away you can ignore these conditions. You need not fill it at all. This is applicable only where a person normally is not required to file the return of income. Then in these conditions, if he satisfies, he has to file a return of income. Now, a major change when it comes to your house property income, I've already covered which ITR needs to be filed, but ITR 1, there's an additional important category. If there is any carry forward or brought forward loss in case of income from house property, then you cannot use ITR 1. Even if you have one house, if you have any carry forward loss or brought forward loss, then in that case, you cannot file under ITR 1. You must file in ITR 2 only. Very, very important change. The next one, co-owners. I'm owning a house along with my wife. It is self-occupied house only, self-occupied property for both of us. And we are showing nil in both of our returns. And in this case, normally what you'll do, I'll also file ITR 1, she'll also file ITR 1. No problem, okay. But this year they have made it clear. If there is any co-ownership of any kind, whether it is rented out, whether it is self-occupied, whatever nature it be, the moment co-ownership is involved, you cannot file ITR 1. Please go to ITR 2 or ITR 2. Please note the change. Very, very important change, because many houses are co-owned by people. And what they do not file in ITR 2, they file only in ITR 1. But this year onwards, please file in ITR 2. If not, invalid. Please note this point. As I told you, they are being very, very strict when it comes to whether it is valid or invalid returns. The next one is your new schedule called Schedule DI. I'm sure you're all aware. We went into a lockdown on 24th or 25th of March. So when we go into lockdown, normally by 31st of March is our investment date. So for the financial year 1920, by 31st of March 2020, we should have completed our investments. But due to the sudden nature of the lockdown, many people have not made their investments under ATC. So therefore, if you are someone who makes the investments in the last week of the year, maybe you will be losing the benefit of this section. So in order to allow people to enjoy the benefit of the section, they extended the date from 31st of March 2020 to 30th of June, and then later on they extended it to 31st of July 2020. So if your client wanted to make an investment in ATC, maybe your PPF or maybe your PF or LIC or Mediclaim, whatever it is, if he has made an investment after April, but before 30th of July or 31st of July, then he can choose to claim it, whether he wants to claim it for financial year 2021 or if he wants to claim it in financial year 1920, he has the option. And this option has to be exercised over here. In Schedule DI, you have to fill how much is the amount pertaining to investments in ATC that you have invested after April, if any. So that breakup needs to be given very clearly over here. You also have a new schedule called ATD. Now ATD was a very, very confusing, a section when it came to filling in the ITR. If you read the section, you will be clear. But when it comes to filling in the ITR form, there was some confusion. I'll tell you why. See, ATD is a unique section where there are multiple subsections. If you are an individual, you can take up to 25,000. If you're a senior citizen, then you can take up to 50,000. Then for medical expenditure, another 5,000 you can take. If your parents are senior citizen, then an additional 50,000. So up to 1 lakh you can enjoy under ATD. But earlier, how the form was in the ITR, you used to have a single line item. ATD, how much? Like how for ATC, you had a single line item. You have to fill 1,50,000. Even if you have invested in 3 lakhs under ATC, if you fill 3 lakhs, it will automatically restrict to 1,50,000. But under ATD, when it was a single line item, many cases exist where your client, he may be someone who's 35 to 40 years of age, is very healthy, perfectly fine. He is paying a long-term Mediclaim insurance where he's paying an amount of yearly, he's paying around 75,000 only for himself, not even for his family, not even for his parents. He's paying only for himself ATD Mediclaim premium 75,000 per year he's paying. Now, he has to restrict his allowance under ATD maximum up to 30,000 in his case. But when you fill it up in that form, like how you're filling ATC, 3 lakhs, it restricts to 1,50,000. Your staff or yourself or somebody who is filling it, they fill saying 75,000. What the form used to do, it will assume you are a senior citizen, your parents are also senior citizens, so maximum you are claiming up to 1 lakh you can claim, only 75,000 you are claiming, you can enjoy. But reality is how much? Maximum up to 25,000 only you could have claimed. But you have claimed 75,000 excess. It's not what you pay that you get to claim. You get to claim only what is as per the section. So therefore, there was a lot of confusion when it came to the section. So in order to remove that confusion, they have put a new schedule itself. So new schedule called ATD is now introduced. What will you do in this ATD? You're going to have all these details that you see on the screen that needs to be filled. I've taken this exactly from the income tax form. So you have to select, are you a senior citizen or not? Yes or no. Are you paying only for yourself or you're paying for your parents also? Yes, I'm paying for my parents also. If you're paying for parents also, are your parents senior citizens or are they not senior citizen? That you have to decide. So all these kinds of things, you have to take a call. So therefore, this is a very, very important decision that you have to make, where you have to fill it correctly and ensure that you don't fill it wrong here. Earlier, some people had claimed excess Mediclaim. They tried to enjoy this Mediclaim by claiming in excess. My submission to you here is, please read the provisions. If you're unclear of the act, please visit the act, reread ATD, please reread the premium details, and then accordingly you can update this section. Gone are the days where you can do excess claiming over here. Now, remember, when I started off, I told you there was a point where if you're a director or you're holding any unlisted shares, then you have to disclose the details. This is right from the form. What are the details you need to disclose? Please see, you have to disclose what is the name of the company, what is the type of the company, what is the PAN number of the company. Look at the details they are asking. What is the PAN number of the company also they are asking. So therefore, PAN number of the company, whether the shares are unlisted or listed, what is the director identification number? So what is your DIN number? All of these you have to fill. Please note, these are all details you have to collect from your clients. You have to collect from the people you are filing for. So therefore, not only that, it does not end there. When it comes to unlisted shares, see what details you have to collect. Name of the company, type of the company, PAN of the company, opening shares, how many shares do you hold? How much did you purchase the shares for? How many number of units do you have? How many number of shares you have? What is the face value per share? All these details you have to disclose. Then during the year, have you acquired more shares? Have you sold more shares? What is the closing balance you have at the end of the year? So all these details you have to now additionally acquire. All of these we would have never got. We would have never got from our clients. They themselves would have forgotten. I don't know what is the face value. I don't know what is the number of shares that I hold. All these details they themselves would have forgotten. But you must remember and you must accordingly be very careful while filling the forms. If you miss it, it may be treated as invalid. One new development you're all aware, 44 AD has come, where it has been amended, where if it exceeds a certain limit, tax audit is no longer required. And that is where in case 5%, please note this point. Please note this point. This is very, very critical. Many of you are employees in several industries. you must note this point. It says that your cash receipts or cash payments does not exceed 5%, then your limit for tax audit is up to rupees 5 crores. Why I am saying this important? It is not talking about sales. It is not talking about expenses. Normally, your income tax is restricted to your revenue and capital items. It is normally restricted to your revenue, taxation of revenue. Everything you look only at the P&L. But in this case, they are saying cash receipts or cash payments. That means it is your total cash outflow. It is not your sales. It is not your purchases. It is not your expenses. So including 5% of your cash payments, your cash receipts means I'm getting my sales, then I have to consider that. I'm selling my machinery. I'm selling my vehicles. I'm selling land. I'm getting several crores of rupees. Even over there, if I get cash, I have to see total cash receipts of everything, all my revenue items, my capital items put together, 5% of that. If it exceeds that, if my cash payments or cash receipts exceeds 5% of that, then straight away this is not applicable. So therefore, cash receipts means all receipts. So please take your total cash outflow, your total cash inflow. That is where you have to do this calculation. Then you all aware, last year our finance minister, honorable finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman madam had announced a very groundbreaking tax strategy where she gave you the option. If you are a new manufacturing company setting up in India, then your tax rate can be as low as 15%. And you also have an option if you are a non-manufacturing company at 22%. So therefore, many options you have now where your tax rates are very low. But which option you are choosing, you have to please select over here. So that is the new addition in the income tax returns. You have to, if you are a company, and in that case, a domestic company has to choose which scheme you have opted for, which option you have chosen, and accordingly, you have to submit it over here. Additional thing for companies is details of KMP, key management personnel have to be shared, and whoever is a eligible person they have put. This is a very, very new term, eligible person. Why it is important is, you all know MCA has been doing a lot of strike-offs. So in the process of the strike-offs, many directors have been disqualified. They have been disqualified. So they have to go to the NCLT, reinstate the company. Then after that, after restoration, they have to file the annual returns, and only then the director can be released, or he has to withdraw from the company or resign from the company. So when they say an eligible person only can be signing off, please be careful to note that your person who is signing it off is eligible. If he is not eligible, it is highly possible that he may be removed, or he may not even be eligible to sign this return of income. He may not be able to even sign the return of income. Be careful. Just ensure the eligibility criteria based on the MCA developments. Details of shareholders of unlisted companies, you know this, but always we used to fill these details. It's not something new. It's not something new. They used to always ask us saying, please fill the details of some shareholders. Now they want more details about it. But the interesting development, as I told you, you might have been aware, very often we used to fill ZZZZ, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. We used to fill these rows, we close it off. Now the new development, I told you, invalid return will be taken seriously. Details based on the sharing of information between the authorities. Now, lot of information is applicable. Lot of information is being shared. If you fail to fill this, then you will be in trouble. So ensure you collect the details from your clients and fill it. Okay, now this is a very, very common question that I get asked wherever I speak. 112A is a new section, and when it comes to the income tax returns, there is a new schedule called 112A, which requires you to inform lot of details. You have to give the ISIN number of the share, name of the unit, how many shares, how much consideration, what was the purchase price, what was the sale price, what was the highest value of the share on 31st of January in 2018. All these details you have to fill. Not only that, last year when they brought it, some of your clients deal in 60 shares, 70 shares, 80 shares, like this. All of them, would you have to fill 80 line items? 90 line items do you have to fill? It's a big question mark over here. So last year they clarified saying, no, it is not mandatory, it is optional. Does anybody want to fill this form optionally? Naturally, nobody wants to fill this schedule. However, now this year, they have not said it's optional. So therefore it becomes mandatory. When they say it is optional, it is optional. Where they say nothing, automatically it becomes mandatory. So here, one very, very critical point. If your client or you are dealing in mutual funds, please note, mutual funds, the ISIN code is not easily available. When it comes to shares, you just have to Google it, you'll get it. ISIN code for certain mutual funds, they are very, very difficult to find. So therefore, in these cases, please ensure you get the details from your client, or you ensure you ask the client to speak to his broker and they collect it upfront. They collect it upfront. Only then you can fill this effectively. If you want to file a return on 31st or on the last day, normally we could have filed it. Now, if you have to fill the ISIN code, it is not that easy to get. So by the time the broker responds, it will be very late. You would have missed the bus. Ensure you get the details upfront. Now, of course, SEBI and CBDT have a information sharing exchange. So therefore, if any of you do not fill it correctly, they'll get the information from SEBI and they will start taking action. So please be very careful when you are filling out your forms. Details of foreign assets. No major change here except one major change. Zip code. Zip code has become compulsory. So now if you own a foreign asset, I'm owning a foreign land, I'm owning a foreign share, then the zip code I have to give where the company is located or where that asset is located. So if I'm lying or I'm not disclosing the details correctly, they will cross-examine and check whether the zip code really asset is there or really shares are there, or I'm simply saying that, or is there something else. So all these details will now be shared between the authorities. It will be investigated. So please be careful to get the details correctly and file it correctly. Now, the major change, I'm almost done with my presentation, so we can take up a few questions before I hand over the proceedings to the organizers. The major change, and yes, you can all please feel free to type your questions in the chat. And I saw many of you have already shared your questions. Please feel free to share all your questions now. We'll take it up immediately after the session. The major change is the 26AS. Ladies and gentlemen, 26AS now is going to be a game changer. It is going to be a game changer. Why I am saying that is that you might have heard this term. The finance minister said this in her last budget, where she said the 26AS is going to become like your passbook. It is going to become like your passbook where all your details will be available in the 26AS. And many people thought, okay, that is very ambitious. But please note, the new development means it is not no longer ambitious. Today it is a reality. What do I mean by that? 26AS was purely meant for your TDS and what is your income chargeable to tax. That's all was getting covered. In case you have paid any self-assessment tax or advance tax, that will also be there. Now look what and all is there in the 26AS. Information as per DTA or Tax Information Exchange Agreement. As per DTA, any information is available, it will come out there. I'm earning income in US. I'm not admitting it in India. No way we used to know. Income tax had to do a lot of research and find it. Now they're getting the information. They're telling you also, excuse me, I have this details. Details of pending proceedings, any proceedings in appellate authorities that is pending. Details of completed proceedings. If they have finished, some demand is due, department have not collected or they have forgotten about it. Now they'll remember because 26AS will have it. Information of any demand or any refund is due, that will also be available. Cash payment of credit card bills in excess of rupees 1 lakh. If you have a credit card and you are paying the bills in cash every month, if it exceeds rupees 1 lakh for the year, it will feature now. It will feature in your 26AS. FDs, shares, mutual funds, bonds, debentures purchased in excess of rupees 10 lakhs, that will also be disclosed. In many cases now, we are seeing where it is in excess of 1 lakh 50 or 2 lakhs itself, it is coming in your 26AS. So therefore, be very careful. More information is coming to department hands. So therefore, if you are not disclosing the source properly, earlier if you had a balance sheet, you're a person who's filing a business income, then all of this will come in the balance sheet. Naturally, source you'll have to check. Some people used to own assets, but they will not disclose it because they would have purchased it in cash. And it will go completely out of the loop. Now look, however, details comes to the income tax information. So if I'm a person who's earning pension, maybe overall my yearly income is only 3 lakhs I'm showing. So I don't even have to file the return of income. I'm just filing it just for the purpose of record like that. But I'm owning BMW, I'm owning Audi, I'm owning all these expensive cars. They'll be wondering how you got it. You will have not explained the source because you would have collected it in cash. You're doing some business on the side. Entire cash business you are purchasing with that. Now look, all the information is coming out. Cash payments in credit card bill, FD share deposits, mutual funds, debentures, receipt of any foreign exchange currency, then expense in foreign currency through cards or checks. All of this will come. So therefore, be very careful, be very wary. Your source you have to be able to explain for all your expenses. So if you are not disclosing your business, you are not disclosing your incomes, all of this have to come out. This was in fact announced by the Honorable Prime Minister during his honoring the honest address, and immediately after the address, within half an hour, the CBDT had tweeted this out. The Ministry of Finance had tweeted this. Look at all the details now they'll be collecting. Payment of educational fee exceeding rupees 1 lakh, that will come in your SFT. Electricity consumption, domestic and business travel, payment to hotels in excess of rupees 20,000, purchase of jewelry, and look at that, payment of property tax in excess of rupees 20,000, life insurance payment of over 50,000, health insurance over 20,000. All of these cases, they'll be very much covered. They'll be very much covered in your 26 AS. So your 26 AS today becomes a detailed information of all your transaction to the department. So therefore, if you are someone who is not disclosing your sources properly, the 26 AS itself will reveal to the department that you are not disclosing something. So when they say honoring the honest, you have to be honest. If not, the data is already available with the department, they will have to simply take action against you. So please be careful. Please ensure that you are disclosing correctly. Now, for a person who's evading tax, your number of solutions are reducing, and the department also is empowered with a lot more data, sharing of information. They're getting details from banks, they're getting details from the other authorities, they're getting details from SEBI. So please note that your avenues to evade taxes are going down. So today we must be an honest citizen. If somebody has not been honest in the past, please tell them, please advise them. As professionals, we are partners of nation building along with the income tax authorities, with the government. So we must only empower the government and empower the associates to be honest. So please ensure whoever you're advising, be it your colleagues in your office or be it your own clients, advise them correctly and ensure that they disclose the correct type of return. Of course, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we're almost out of time. But this is a new development from the income tax side where they have something called CPC 2.0. It is a complete game changer where your entire return, they are saying it will be processed in a matter of hours. I'm filing my return of income tonight. By tomorrow morning, it would have been processed and refund would have been given to me. And they're calling it straight through processing. Not only that, they are going to have a call center and a helpline. How suddenly, if my Jio phone is not working properly, I have Jio customer care, I have Airtel customer care, I have various companies which have an established team of a network where they very, very carefully, private companies, how carefully they take you through troubleshooting. And we all know when it comes to government, normally itself we associate with saying that, oh, if I call you, you don't do it. If I do this, you don't do it. You don't respond to my mails. You don't respond to anything. Income tax has completely changed it on its head. When the CPC 2.0 comes, it's a matter of months before this comes into, they are going to establish a real-time call center, a virtual assistant, where like how you are calling private companies and they're resolving issues, department will also resolve it. So gone are the days where you have to depend on professionals, where they're not getting the refund, something is not happening. They are saying, yeah, they will get back. This person's been transferred. It will come tomorrow. It will come next week. You come again after 1 month. All those days are gone. They're making it assessee friendly so that assessees themselves directly, they can lift the phone and they can call and resolve the issues. So these are very, very critical changes that is going to transform how you approach your return filing for all your clients. Of course, in my presentation, I've also given the due dates, all the extended due dates. The only critical point here to note, ATC due date ended on 31st of July. If you ought to have deposited in your ATC, ATD and Chapter 6A deductions by 31st of March 2020, you were given extra time up to 31st of July. This has not been extended. I've been reading online. So many people ask me doubts almost on a daily basis. And many of you, I'm sure, who are watching here are having this doubt also whether that date for ATC was extended. It has not been extended. Only for your reinvestment under section 54, 54F, etc. Only for that it has been extended to 30th of September. Where for ATC, 31st July, ATC, ATD or Chapter 6A, 31st July was the last date. If you have not invested by then gone, you cannot invest it anymore. I've also shared many practical case laws over here. I'm not going to spend too much time over there. I will share the PPT with you. I know many people have started asking questions and getting prompts. So let us take some questions before I hand over the session to the organizers. I'll just open the chat box and start taking the questions. Both husband and wife regularly submit IT returns. Husband claims deduction under section 80 DDB for Parkinson of his wife. Mediclaim of both is also claimed under ATD by husband. Wife's income is from investment and tuition fees. Okay, sir, what is the question? You have given all the facts, but you have not given the question. You can please repost it, sir. Asit Kumar, sir. Praveen Pautro. My client has not received IT refund till now for assessment year 1920. How can we check if the IT will get the credit, please? Sir, first thing you need to check is the return processed at all. You have to log into the website, check the processing status. If the return has been processed, which I think most cases it has been processed by now, then in that case, you can follow up with the department to check the status of the refund. In case it is not processed, you can request for an intimation to be done under 143(1). There is an option where you have on the income tax website where you can request the intimation be processed. In that case, they will process it and then you will get the refund. Mr. Subramanian, if one is holding only shares as a nominee of the company and the amount is paid by the company for minimum number of shares, whether it has to be disclosed, and if so, how? If the actual cost is nil. Yes, sir, you still have to disclose it. You still have to disclose it. But nominee means the original person, whether he is alive, or the nominee means the other person. Only based on a certain circumstance will you become a nominee. In though that circumstance is not achieved, then that person still remains the shareholder. But however, if you have become the shareholder, then you have to disclose. Moharana sir has asked, one of my clients has received more than 25 lakhs in his personal savings account in spite of his business current account. How to disclose this income in his personal return? Sir, if it relates to business, then you can definitely show it in your business. You can withdraw it and again deposit it, or you can just ensure that it is shown as drawings or some manner it is shown in your business account. It has to be definitely considered in the business details. If it is your personal, if you have received it by mistake, then please transfer it to the right person, return it to the person, ask him to deposit again in the business account. If you are not doing that, then you have to admit it in your personal income as your other income. I am working in India and as per my service agreement, I get ESOP shares from USA company. This will be taken as a foreign asset or asset side. It will be taken as a foreign asset. This is a very, very common thing where people are working in IT companies or working in companies which are multinationals. They get shares, listed shares, company of the company in the US. So in that case, it will become a foreign asset. It is not an Indian asset. Even though you are working in India, even though you are an Indian company, the asset is foreign in nature. So if you sell the share, it will be taxed in the US. It may be taxed in India also, but it will be taxed in the US first. So the source and jurisdiction of taxation applies in the foreign country. Automatically, the jurisdiction becomes foreign. So therefore, it is a foreign asset. Siva Prasad, sir, panic mind will make more crime. Fair point, sir, definitely. But I think it is up to us as professionals to advise them correctly. CMA Nikhil, is there any time limit to issue refund order? I think as soon as it is processed, especially due to COVID, they are releasing almost immediately, sir. You can feel free to follow up with them. They will definitely help. Department have been, I have to admit, the department have been very kind, and many refunds they have been issuing in a very, very passionate way and in a very generous way. So unless they think something is out of ordinary, in that case, they have been issuing the refunds. Mr. Aragappan has asked, for whom SFT disclosure is mandatory in IT return filing? SFT disclosure now for everyone it will come, sir. So that is the thing. That is a new development as per the Honorable Prime Minister's address in August. as per what this the tweet that I showed you, the photo that I showed you, that image, it has not yet been codified, but they want to make it mandatory to everyone. It appears you have to wait for them to codify it and see what are the implications. Galaxy Tab S4. If I have remitted 1 lakh to my wife's SB account and she has made FD and interest earning, is it taxable for me? I have remitted 1 lakh. Sir, this will be in clubbing provisions where the person is not capable of earning the money. I am gifting it to them. Then in that case, I will give to my wife, I'll give to my son, I'll give to my father. And instead of taxing me, I will take through them because the lower slab rate I will enjoy. In order to prevent that, you have clubbing purposes. So where the person is earning the money, not from their efforts, not from their income, but due to you are giving it to them, then clubbing will apply. It will be with you only, sir. You cannot tax in wife's hands. CMA Panigraha, sir. If I have an ancestral house property which is still in the name of late father, but I am the ultimate owner and I have purchased a house as well, which return should I file? Sir, it should be in your return. Please ensure you change the data from your father's name to yours. Maybe it is getting missed because of that, but if your father is no more and you are the owner, then you have to only admit the income. It will come to the legal heirs automatically. All their assets would have transferred to you. Can husband claim under Section 80 DDB and Mediclaim insurance premium spent for the wife? It depends who is spending it, sir. If it is spent by the husband, then they can claim it. Nice session. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Please explain the tax treatment of jointly held house property for husband and wife where both of them are filing return of income. I don't know what specifically you want to explain here, sir. If they're earning rent from the house property, then both of them can offer it to tax. Both of them can also claim their interest paid on housing loan. They can claim up to 2,50,000 for them if it is self-occupied, or more also unlimited if it is let out. And for adjusting against the other heads, restricted to rupees 2 lakhs. Individually, they can claim it even though it is held jointly by them. Wife and husband co-owner of house property, can only wife file the return and husband not accountable for that? No, sir. Both of them have to file. Great presentation. Thank you, sir, for the kind words. ITR 1 or ITR 2? Sir, ITR 2 has to be filed in that scenario. SFT applicable to whom? Sir, I've already covered that. It's applicable to everyone, it appears. We have to still wait for the codified for amendments to come based on our Prime Minister's address. Son sent money to mother account from the UK. Mother done FD. Interest taxable in whose hand? Sir, in this case, I should say clubbing is applicable, but that person is a non-resident. No asset is there in their name. So my view is the income should be brought to tax. You can at least get it taxed in the mother's hands. So please at least offer it to tax in the mother's hands. So I think we have covered all the questions. Thank you all for this wonderful opportunity. I thoroughly enjoyed presenting before all of you. And I thank all the organizers for doing such a great job organizing the event and giving me this opportunity. Over to the able hands of Saktidhar Singh ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for nice and detailed presentation with detailed deliberation, how to filing the income tax return and every aspect of the forms. And there is a nice question answer session also. Now I would like to request CMA Jatindra Kumar Sahu, Chairman ICAI South Odisha Chapter, please
Yes.
deliver the vote of thanks.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Sir, Jatindra
Yes,
Kumar,
I'm audible, no?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
you are,
Yes, I'm here.
audible. You are audible.
Yes.
Your 1 minute, sir. Shaktidhar Singh, sir, if you permit, see,
Sure.
some more questions are just pouring in. Of course, we can understand the timing also. So if
No, our
if
timing is up to 8:30, sir.
No, 1 second, 1 second.
Yes.
So Abhishek bhai, if you permit, some of the members have raised some questions. Some
Yeah,
more
I'm happy to
questions
take,
are
sir.
left
I'm
out.
happy to take.
No, not now. What I suggest, Abhishek bhai,
Yes, sir.
they can write to your mail.
Sure, sir.
And you can clarify them later on also.
Sure. They can
Because,
drop me an email. I'll be happy.
I find Asit Kumar Mondal, Some more people, they are, when you started answering, they have now started asking more questions. So what I feel, dearest and respected members and participants, Abhishek Bhai will be very happy to receive your this thing through mail. Okay, so that you will also can be very clear with your questions with more clarity, so that Abhishek Bhai will be able to answer you. This I just want to share, Abhishek Bhai. Okay, Jatindra Kumar sir, sorry for interrupting you. Your voice.
Okay. It's okay, sir. Yes, okay. So, good evening, all of my professional friends, our most valued guests, research persons, and stakeholders who have joined in today's webinar on the Insight to Income Tax Return. I, Jatindra Kumar Sahu, Chairman of South Odisha Chapter of ICI, Berhampur, feel privileged to extend formal vote of thanks on this occasion. So before extending formal vote of thanks, I pray before Lord Jagannath to keep all of you healthy and safe during this pandemic COVID-19, which is a threat to the entire human being all over the world. So on behalf of the organizer, I convey my heartfelt thanks and deep gratitude to CMA S. Padmanabhanji for accepting our invitation and graced the occasion with his nice words. My heartfelt thanks also goes to CMA Niranjan Mishra-ji, who is although not present in this occasion, but for his all-time support in various programs in different platforms. Now, my special thanks with deep sense of appreciation to Dr. Abhishek Murliji for his valuable presentation and explanation with excellent coverage and lots of examples on the topic. As a research person, particularly on key changes in filing income tax returns, hope it must have updated the knowledge of our professional friends on specific areas. So thank you very much, Murliji, for your kind presentation. Further, I would like to convey my hearty thanks to CMA Mukesh Chaubey, Chairman, Bhubaneswar Chapter, CMA Satyadhar Singh, Chairman, PD Committee of Bhubaneswar Chapter, and all the managing committee members and staffs of the chapter for organizing such a need-based webinar in association with all chapters in Odisha. My sincere thanks also goes to Chairman and managing committee members of all chapters in Odisha, along with my managing committee, for their continuous support to make the event on this virtual platform once again a grand success. My special thanks also to the accommodations from various colleges in Odisha and other stakeholders for accepting our invitation and joining the webinar. Lastly, I convey bottomless thanks to all the participants for their active support for making the program a grand success. We hope same sorts of support and cooperation in future events also. Thank you all once again. Jai Jagannath, Namaskar, stay safe and stay healthy. Good night all.
Namaskar.
Great.
Namaskar.
Okay.
So now
Thank
we
you.
can leave, with your permission, Abhishek Bhai, Satyadhar sir, everybody.
Sir.
I can take leave, na?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Yes,
you,
yes.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jitendra Kumar sir. Actually,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
to you also. You could not thank yourself, na? We thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, sir. Okay, good night all. Okay, thank you very much.
Namaskar. Jai Jagannath.